So now I'm on the road again. How am I going to get to London? God only knows. I made my way out of the town and ran into a little fellow by the name of Treewater, a little English fellow who was on his way back to England from Amsterdam. And we hitchhiked together. And somehow we got to Ostend. Ostend means West End, actually, in the Belgian language. And this was a way you could go by the ferry boat to Dover in England and get your way up to London, which is 60, 70 miles up from Dover across the famous English Channel. So anyway, we get there and we hitchhike and we get to town, and we got about 5-6 hours, and we spend the night at a weird carnival, which was down by the seaport. And they had like a Ferris wheel and merry-go-rounds. It was right in the middle of town, though. It seemed to be like permanent. So we spent the night, a Saturday night there, and it was pretty cool, but I gotta tell you, I needed to get out of Amsterdam. It had gotten too heavy for me, and my mind was a little bit shot after the day out, night out, and the acid trip. So here I am spending the night waiting for a ferry boat. The trip over on the hydroplane ferry boat was pretty cool. It took some hours, and it seemed to last just about all night. We didn't leave till like 11:30 in the evening. Lasted a few hours. By the time we got off, the sun was kind of coming up, and it was Sunday morning. And I'm still with Treewater, and we're trying to hitchhike, and there's really no traffic. Once those few cars on that ferry boat left, we were basically out there alone, walking, stumbling, foggy. Finally got 6-7 rides, short ones, and we get into London. Treewater leaves. I think he had some LSD with him. He was trying to sell to somebody. But I'm in the middle of London on a Sunday morning, walking around, church bells ringing, backpack on me. I don't know where to go, stumbling. But I was glad to be in London. And when you get to a big city and you're a traveler and you don't know where the hell you're going, and there's so many places to go because it's big London, 20 million people or something, and it had all the Big Bens and the Hyde Parks and all the Trafalgar Squares, all the great things. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. And finally, I find near the St. Paul's Cathedral, a youth hostel. I think there were 3 or 4 youth hostels at the time. And I found myself a bunk bed, got myself comfortable, and found myself in with a group of travelers who decided they were going to go out and have a smoke. So there we were near this famous cathedral at this youth hostel, like a 2-story brick building. And I found these people, young lady named Joanne from California, and she said, I got some hashish. And I said, well, I've got a pipe. And we found another few guys, and there we went off and we found a little graveyard, a little cemetery tucked away just a block or two from our youth hostel. Joanne brings out the hash, and I'm preparing. I'm whipping it. I'm using my hands and breaking off little pieces, putting in this pipe. Got a match from someplace. Just, ooh, we're really getting this sucker going. And we're passing around, and we're getting a little bit buzzed out. All of a sudden, we hear, I suspect you're smoking cannabis. Oh my God. It was a Bobby wearing a crazy uniform with a crazy big hat. And this guy's coming out. Oh my God. He's got flashlights. He's doing all kinds of stuff. He moves us all out. Says, you guys, move over there, get you in there, moves us over, brings up a paddy wagon, puts all 4 of us in the paddy wagon. And they bring out 19 other cops with flashlights. It's starting to get dark. It's my first day in London, and it's getting dark. And they come out, and one of them has the big chunk of hashish in his hand. And he goes, I suspect none of you have seen this before. And no, never. Anyway, they took us in and booked us and kept us for hours looking for stuff, trying to find out, trying to break us. People were crying. It was a big mess. Late that night, I got back to that youth hostel, and I was glad to be safe and not in jail. The next day, after the marijuana bust, the hashish bust by the London Bobbies, was really my first full day in London. I woke up at the youth hostel, and I go down to the Tate Gallery, a famous art gallery with Joanne, Jack, and Ingrid, a Norwegian chick who had hitchhiked with Jack over to London. The modern art is fantastic. Every piece seemingly a famous painting that I had seen in art books, a room of Picassos and 4 dollies. I flipped over the great art. That night, I walked down to Trafalgar and Piccadilly with a Canadian chick who seems a decent type. Some lease guy followed along with us and stayed with us. I'm getting pretty horny at this point. It was rainy and we went to Soho, the real Soho in London. The next day is Tuesday. I go with Ingrid and Dell, a cool California guy with a guitar that he carries around. We walk all over and jam in Hyde Park, far out. We walk back to the hostel down Oxford Street. I did not care if Dell came along, as I liked him and his music. Then I called an English chick, Rebecca, who I met in Amsterdam. She seemed cold and aloof to me on the phone, but I agreed to meet her. The next day, it's off to the British Museum with 3 Amsterdammers, a brother and sister who are dark-skinned because their father is from Suriname, or Dutch Guiana in South America. A regular white Dutch guy named Hank who sleeps in my room, who I've talked to quite a bit. The museum is fucking too much. It blows our minds. So many things that the English stole from all over the world. They have mummies and all sorts of far-out artifacts from all civilizations, even whole walls of cities. The paling around from the youth hostel is refreshing. These are nice young people from all over the world, and I'm willing to just kind of hang out. So we go off. Corinne and Ingrid, these are my Scandinavian lady friends from Amsterdam, Jack, the Colombian fella, to walk about the city. It's Jack's birthday, and we go down to see the changing of the guards at Buckingham Palace, just like a real tourist. It seems like pomp and circumstance crap, and frankly, I'm just not into that. We pick up a crazy California curly-headed girl and walk about with her. Corinne and I continue to be very friendly, touching and rubbing up against each other. The curly-head gal from California cuts out, and Jack goes to find a launderette. Corinne, Ingrid, and I go to Hyde Park. They talk Swedish, and I'm digging it. The night after the British Museum, we're going around in the neighborhood of the hostel. We go to the pub nearby. We get drunk. I won't buy Corinne any drinks, and she goes flirting for drinks. Screw her. She keeps coming back to me and kissing me. The rapport is very interesting. She is a tease, like a lot. She knows there's no place to go for us with the cost of a room in London. We're kissing and humping in the hostel. It's like me and my lady friends at my dorm at State. I'm horny. The next day I wake up and think of the absurdity of the night before. I see Corinne and Ingrid. We catch some toast for breakfast together, but there's no way I'm going with them today. It's too damn frustrating. The next day, I just go out and get incredibly lost in the city of London. It's a huge town. I write a letter home in some little park, and there are many little parks dotting London. I see the real London, not the museums. I finally wind up back at Piccadilly and buy some shit for £1 bob, a pound, for a couple of grams. I almost didn't buy, but I'm a sucker. The kid salesman is wearing a business suit, and he just approaches me as I'm walking by. I go to Green Park after buying some crazy tobacco and smoke it. Not bad. It's supposed to be Afghani. I might have to make my way to Afghanistan someday. I can't believe that I now feel I've caught myself up in my journal. 5 days I just wrote up. That was pretty cool for me. It's October 23, 1970. I'm still in London. And I'm still hanging around with that Scandinavian dynamic duo. They're frustrating me, but I did like them. As we sat there, a guy came up in the hostel and asked if anyone wanted to go to Spain. Wow, I said I did, but the guy said he really would rather find two girls. Well, the duo took the bait and left me in the cold with a kiss goodbye and a load of horniness. And frankly, I allowed them to cut off one of my curls the second time I had done that. The companionship of Corinne might have been interesting for a while, I wrote. Perhaps another time. She was a lover, but there was no place for it here in London. Monday is the big day for moving on. I now have a ride out, and I hope my ride comes through. I'm going with some guys. It would be a bummer in the essence of the world if it did not work out. The hostel situation is so difficult for me. It makes me feel like a child. I don't know if I can or want to ever call English Rebecca again. She probably couldn't care less. She was a strange chick who I really could not figure out. Last night I went with a really crazy LA dude. Today I went off on a long walking journey through London with two dudes and Joanne, the gal who got busted with me. It was interesting, and we wound up at some street market on Portobello Road. We sat and listened to some dudes make street music there. So here's the way my journal reflects my situation with my lady friends. I gave my second lock of hair away yesterday to the Scandinavian duo. They split from my life. Sue and Rebecca took one of my locks also in Amsterdam. I've got to steer clear of teams and maybe all chicks for a while. I was singing Carina Carina, a favorite song of mine by Bob Dylan on the album Freewheelin', with a slightly new vision tonight, thinking of Corinne. This morning I heard side 2 of Dylan's Bringing It All Back Home. Reflections on London. It was a very interesting city, but it really did not surprise me too much. The weather was always gray and dingy. A strike by the garbage workers that went on the whole time I was there is really beginning to clutter and smell things up a bit. It was a very nice city to take long walks in. Like some other places, the people seemed really nice. Some of the old English characters I encountered were of classic proportion as far as characters go, just like out of a movie or a book, caricatures of themselves. Yesterday, I found a great walking stick in Hyde Park. I peeled off the bark with my pocket knife and started whittling it down. It was really looking beautiful. I was getting great social feedback from the people on the streets from my walking stick. A stranger gave me a great leather braided ring to put on the handle. It was beautiful. This morning, I was walking in the tube station, the subway, and two Bobbies started hassling me, saying, "That walking stick is a weapon." What a world. I left my stick in a stall in the bathroom, a symbolic gesture. So I started and finished London being harassed by the Bobbies. A cop's a cop. Next week, join us as we again celebrate the 50-year anniversary of Stevie Wander leaving England, leaving London, getting in a van, going back across the channel, Dover behind me there, into France, spending 3 hours in Paris, going down through France, through Andorra, which is in the Pyrenees, and then going down to Barcelona, where he will embark on a boat overnight, a Spanish steamer, to the island of Ibiza and the adventure of Formentera, a tiny island in the Mediterranean. More adventure, more police, more craziness. The cop makes a call on his police radio, and within minutes, 9 more Bobbies appear on the scene. They split into groups and search through the cemetery. I flick my pipe to a far corner of the graveyard. Joanne is in a near panic, standing next to me. She still has her hashish. She drops it to the ground and stands on it. We should have swallowed it. Now some big troubles are coming our way.
What oppressive army are you from? I shout at the arresting Bobby. Shut up, young man. I'm putting you in jail, he says. We're innocent people being harassed by the establishment, I holler. Dell and Joanne are quiet, and it looks like Jack eluded the police. I continue my radical militant rant at the authorities as the Bobby puts the three of us in handcuffs. The rest of the officers come back from their search and congregate together. One of the Bobbies directs us to follow a cop to a paddy wagon. We are sitting in the big black police van waiting for what comes next when a Bobby comes over and addresses us. I suppose none of you knows anything about this, he says as he holds up a 7 or 8 gram chunk of light brown hashish. We all shake our heads, no, and smile back at him, answering in unison, of course not. It's amazing they didn't catch us with it in our possession. As we walked away and I saw the hash from under Joanne's foot, I gave it a quick kick and nobody saw it as we headed to the wagon. The Bobbies drive to the police station so they can search us and book us.